Hello it's me. Today we're going to talk about Lunar New Moon by Ian Mcdonald. Mcdonald is a British author, Manchester born, now living in Northern Ireland. This is the first novel I've read by him, but it seems from looking at his other stuff, he writes a lot of the social side of science fiction, a lot about how changes would impact the society they occur in. He writes a lot about new colonialism, not in a storming in and kicking people out kind of way, but in a creating a habitable space away from Earth way, and the sorts of societies that would arise in that kind of situation. Lunar New Moon is the first in a trilogy, 3 books and 1 novella actually, but I'll definitely be reading all of them. It was awarded the Galactric Spectrum Award in 2016, which is awarded for exploration of LGBTQ plus issues and topics in sci-fi and fantasy and horror in a positive and progressive way. And I think this book absolutely deserved that. On that front, it was just incredible. So good. I'll talk a bit more about that in the things I liked section. The video is going to go plot of the book, things I liked, things I didn't like, then a couple of spoilery bits at the end. The story's set in the future after people have moved to the moon to exploit its resources and taking advantage of a society that is moving away from the problems of Earth and trying to distance itself. 5 family corporations control the moon in an almost mafia-style relationship. Tension that exists between them is controlled and held at bay by contracts, arranged marriages, land ownership, mutual agreement, in a place where there exists pretty much no official law, only contract law. On the moon, there is always room for negotiation, and that's something the society really prides itself on. A land built on self-sufficiency, self-reliance, where you have to put your needs above everybody else's, as your every move is controlled by the 4 lunar elementals: air, water, carbon, and data. You live indentured, you pay for everything, and it is not cheap. The book follows the 5 families, known on the moon as the 5 dragons. The Mackenzies, Australian metal miners and mineral extractors. Asamoahs, Ghanaian biologists and gene-manipulating farmers. The Sun Corporation, quantum data wranglers and software developers out of Beijing. Vorontsovs, Russian ship and infrastructure engineers. And the latest, newest company that threatens to topple the fragile equilibrium, the Brazilian Cortas. Helium-3 miners that export cheap fuel and keep the lights burning on Earth. The long-standing and bitter rivalry between the Mackenzies and the Cortas company Corta Helio comes to a head after an attempt on the life of Rafa Corta, the heir to the Helium Empire, and Corta Helio snatching a land claim out from under the Mackenzies. What follows is the uncovering of a tangled plot with attempts by the LDC, the Lunar Development Company, to arrange marriages, deaths, and sales to placate the families and keep them docile under the control of Earth. And sow distrust within the families as the family heads grow increasingly older and everybody starts to wonder which string is really being pulled by who. Things I liked. There's a lot. I love this book. Going straight into it, one of the things that I feel might put a lot of people off initially, and I was worried about it too, is that there are so many characters. You open the book and there's a 4-page long cast list, and I was like, oh, here we go. Great. I actually found myself referring back to that for sort of the first third of the book as I got used to who everybody was. It's a huge list. Most of the book revolves around the Corta family, with characters from other families that I feel will play a bigger role in later books. But honestly, hardly anybody was neglected. You really get to know all the Cortas on a personal level, and it does that with really key, well-constructed emotional scenes for a lot of people. This is absolutely a character-driven book. Several chapters in here, some of my favourite chapters are from the point of view of Adriana Corta, the head of the family, speaking about her childhood in Brazil in the form of confession to a priest. And this kind of thing has to be character-driven. One thing I loved is that being set on the moon, for the people who live there, the beauty and romance of the moon as we see it from Earth is gone. What they see as amazing is the human ingenuity, the human opportunity, and interactions in the society. And it's like, against the grey, ugly backdrop of the lunar landscape, the people are enhanced tenfold. You have the contrasting mechanization of Earth, which hit society particularly hard in Central and South America, where you pretty much only get the privilege of working if you're cheaper than a machine, and the peopleization of the moon. I love the way this book has smashed together all these different cultures to create something completely new, while at the same time, because the main nationalities of the moon are from the 5 founding families, the cultural stuff has not been lost, but has become something more along the lines of family traditions. The new culture that is emerging's everyday language mixes and borrows words from Chinese, Portuguese, Russian, English, Yoruba, Arabic, Akan, and Korean. And people, besides speaking their own personal or familial language, also speak Globo, which is a sort of international, simplified Esperanto type thing, fusing a lot of languages into a common, more easy to learn one, making communication something more accessible. And in this building of a rich and gorgeous patois, you can really see how new languages do emerge. One thing this story addresses well is a society arising that is energy rich and resource poor. There's a huge amount of recycling, monetization of everything. So money doesn't equal extravagance, it equals freedom to live. I love the fact that it talks about when we finally go interstellar as a species and break out of our solar system. For a long time, new societies will not be like Earth. They will be closed systems, they will be something new. They will be like our moon bases, like our soon-to-be Mars colonies. And we need to get these right. We need to learn how to live and live with each other in a new way. It also addresses the big difference between living in a place and seeing that place as a tourist, which is a very important conversation. This is definitely hard sci-fi, but it's not inaccessibly hard sci-fi. It's hard in that everything physics-wise and engineering-wise is very believable and very well explained. And the fact that the moon is a horrible, desolate wasteland does put restrictions on the way you can live. You have a tiny crack to exploit, to carve out a home, to fill with something amazing, but don't you ever forget, on the other side of that wall is death. It doesn't paint a rosy picture of the moon. It paints a hopeful picture of people and their survival through tenacity. The actual world build, in terms of new technology, manages to get it so perfect in terms of using technology that as a society we either already have or are very close to having. This doesn't feel like the distant future. This feels around the corner. One thing I loved in here is the idea of 3D printing and how that changes fashion and appearance, in that it makes beauty accessible and looking good and having designer things no longer is elitist. You expect the moon to be utilitarian, everybody wearing spacesuits and jumpsuits, but it's not like that, and it can't be like that. In such a everything is social links society, all your power is in connections. So it's realistic that you have to be impressive, you have to look good, and you have to be a bit of a peacock. I like the idea that gold in this society is almost worthless because it's easy to get. It's used in fashion and just hammers in that in this society, there are a very different set of priorities. The idea of love and marriage in this society is amazing as well. Marriage exists in the form of negotiated contracts called nikahs, which are for preset lengths and can either be renewed or left to expire. There is no language at all that talks about gay, straight, queer. It is accepted that everybody is on a sliding spectrum in terms of sexuality, sexual attraction and preference. You either like somebody or you don't. A lot of characters in here have same-sex marriages. Some make no distinction between gender or have no set preference. Others do. Some characters are not intersex at all. I think it paints a picture of a very sexually healthy society. You also have characters in here that don't use he or her pronouns. I think the inclusion of that was really good. I like that for portions of the story you follow a character called Marina, who is hired by and works for the Quarters, who is new to the moon. It's good because it gives you both an internal and external view of the goings-on in the families, introduces us to aspects of lunar life in an organic way without info dumping. I always think that the idea of a newbie is a really good plot device when you have a lot of information that you need the reader to understand. Okay, things I didn't like. There's only one, really, and it is a spoiler. So turn off here and just go and read this book. The thing I didn't like was Wagner Quarter. Wagner Quarter, who appears to be a freaking werewolf. When there's a full Earth overhead. He somehow gets improved physical and mental capability and lives with a pack who he sleeps naked with in a big pile, like dogs. And he talks about the wolf aspect of him and the two sides of his personality and brain that come out when the earth light is shining overhead. Honestly, when I was reading the passages about Wagner, I was like, what is this? Are these people just crazy? Is this some new magical aspect of human biology he's trying to put in? It came quite late in the book. It was totally out of place. And honestly was the only thing stopping this book from being a 5-star. I don't know what that was about, but I didn't like it. A spoilery bit that really made me tear up was the symmetry of the book between Lucas and his son, Lucasinho. The way the book opened with Lucasinho's moon run, braving the hard vacuum naked, and ending with his father doing the same. The mirror image symmetry of that. Oh. Also, I feel like there's a lot of thematic similarities, aesthetic similarities to Dune in here. I feel like I can smell the Dune influence. Families warring over resources which are essentially sand. A bad guy who's restricted to a chair, he's old and fat and gross. His gross son who likes little boys. I feel like I could see the Harkonnen influence. This is a story with a huge scope. It's super original, even though I just said I can smell Dune all over it. Don't go in looking for a plot, because there's like 20 things happening at the same time. And you will be like, what's going on? Until you are like, oh my god! And you realise everything is connected and it's all been part of one big game. Just roll with punches. The second quarter of this book, I will also say, is very slow. But really, stick with it. You will not be sorry. This is amazing. So, 4 out of 5 stars from me for this. Thanks for tuning in for my review. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, which is linked down below. Goodreads, which is also linked down below. I'll link our sci-fi book Discord in the description as well. If you've read this book before, let me know what you thought of it. If not, just say hi in the comments. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye!